I know what you're thinking. Today I can finally do a video about something that I'm looking forward to. The new one-shot, Look Back, by Tatsuki Fujimoto, whose past work include Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man, the most anticipated anime adaptation of probably of all time. I'm sure everyone knows what Chainsaw Man is. Anyways, we're not here to talk about Chainsaw Man. We're here to look back on Look Back, because I already read it. So spoiler alert, if you haven't read Look Back, you can read for free on Manga Plus or Viz.com. So to give a quick synopsis on Look Back, from what I understand, is a semi-autobiographical story about these two girls who are drawing manga. And we follow them as they grow up. And because it's a Fujimoto story, there's going to be some tragedy. That's not really a surprise at this point where it's expected if you've read his past work. And even though I expected there to be tragedy, I didn't know when and I didn't know how, it still got me. Because the way Fujimoto writes characters, it feels really personal. So I say semi-autobiographical because I feel like this is literally Fujimoto's life. Now, I'm pretty sure Fujimoto is a single person. He is not two little girls, despite what his Twitter may say. So the only context that I have for his biography is, unfortunately, is a simple Wikipedia article. Now, because it's Wikipedia, obviously, we don't know if it's true. But generally for like niche topics, it's pretty well sourced, so I imagine it's pretty accurate. Important to know about his early life, I mean, there's not much to it, is that he did start drawing at an early age. He then goes to art school in Yamagata, very important prefecture to remember. And then he did a bunch of one-shots, he worked as an assistant, and then he eventually got serialized for Fire Punch, and then once again for Chainsaw Man. And ever since Chainsaw Man, he has become a well-respected name. I think it's part of the appeal of his manga, for me personally, is that his mangas are very short. They're about 11 volumes each, which I love, because then you don't have like this huge collection of books and you can tell a more concise story, which is great. But anyway, back to Look Back. Our two main characters, Fujino and Kyomoto, both are very different in terms of their personality, in terms of their goals, and in terms of their skill set when it comes to manga. So Fujino is very good at writing. She's very good at coming up with stories, but her drawing abilities are left to be desired. I mean, they're decent, but she still has to use stick figures. In contrast to Kyomoto, she's very talented in the technical aspects of art, so she can draw great backgrounds, but she doesn't have a story, so they're just art. And obviously, of course, Fujino, Kyomoto, Fujimoto, haha, wordplay, which adds more credibility to my theory that Naoki Fujita in the manga reality show is just Fujimoto pretending to be a different contestant. I would not be surprised. And also, you know, according to Japanese Twitter, there's also some wordplay with "don't look back in anger," which is a reference to an Oasis song, and the main message of the song is like, don't look back in anger, look forward. I don't know, I don't know much about Oasis besides Wonderwall, but yeah, I didn't come up with that. Someone in Japan did, and then someone on Twitter ripped them off. I'm not gonna go over through every single nuance to this one shot, because you know, I'm not writing this. This is all live, so I can't really come up with these things. But anyway, just like Fujimoto, you have well-written characters that are very personal. It feels like this is, like, Fujino is Fujimoto. So you get a lot of, like, moments where she gets jealous. She compares herself to other people. Oh, she even says that she doesn't know if she wants to be a manga artist, and that it sounds boring. That's actually something you should remember. Oh, she drew them in 5 minutes. Yeah. Like I said, I did read it, but I'm rereading it quickly through here. She has a talent for writing manga, but she doesn't know if she wants to do it. Then she finds out that her competitor is really good at drawing, and then she gets jealous. And because she gets jealous, she works harder to become better at manga. But because she spends her time drawing manga, she loses, you know, her social life. People start making fun of her, that she shouldn't be drawing manga, or she'll be known as a creepy otaku, and that might hit personally for a lot of people, especially for like the artistic type. I can imagine Fujimoto went through the exact same thing growing up. People were telling him that he won't amount to anything. His art's weird. You should stop drawing art, you're too old for that. You should get a real job. Things like that. So eventually, yeah, which is also really sad because but she tends to ignore her abilities that, you know, she can write good stories. This person hasn't even written a single amount of dialogue. It's just art. It's not the same. You can't compare the two, but she does compare the two. And so she gives up. And so eventually, she meets the Kyomoto. And Kyomoto basically simps for Fujino. And it's a classic Fujimoto character design. Also classic Fujimoto to have a girl characters seem incredibly emotionless and sociopathic, trying to hide her emotions, but in reality, she's like super happy. Oh my god, this is probably like the best page in the whole manga. It's just this really awkward girl that's not able to express herself, dancing weirdly in the rain. And that's the end of Act 1. Then the two decide to get friends, we get some bonding. Lots of passage of time. This is what I really like about Fujimoto mangas. I know it's not really exclusive to him, but he likes to show and not tell. So he likes to do a lot of like similar looking panels of time passing. Lone 7-Eleven. I think this is like a Coen Brothers reference. I haven't seen all their movies though, but I can imagine this would probably is a reference to Fargo or something. We get some friendship, wholesome friendship, and obviously they're in a cinema because why not? It's Fujimoto, he loves movies. We get to see his like one-shots. I'm not too sure if this is accurate to the one-shots that he wrote. If these are like slight parodies of his own one-shots. It'd be funny if it was. And now we get our first sense of drama, our first sense of conflict. This is like similar in Berserk, where Guts left Griffith to follow his own dreams. Griffith got really mad and really heated. I don't know. I don't know if this is actually a reference to Berserk, which would be interesting based on like how this manga is going. Or he could have had a bad breakup with a girl. You know, this sounds like this sounds like a very controlling relationship. He might have been very controlling, or maybe the girl. I mean, he did meet a Makima in college, so who knows? He might have dated her too. So anyway, Kyomoto wants to go to art school so she can become a better artist. Fujino throws her spill trying to keep her, saying that art school is totally worthless. I mean, she wants to stay together, but, you know, Kyomoto wants to be better. They have their own reasons, and so they split, which is really sad. But, you know, turns out that Fujino doesn't necessarily need Kyomoto, and so she ends up having a successful manga called Shark Kick, which is a really funny pun on both Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man having a very fan-favorite character who is a shark. I think both Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man have 11 volumes, which is pretty funny. And so we get to the climax of Act 2, and of course, a Fujimoto story has tragedy. So we get tragedy, and now this is going to be more interesting and maybe the more controversial aspects of this story. First of all, it's a reference to his art school because it's Yamagata, but that's not the interesting thing. The interesting thing is that this could also be a reference, and I have a feeling it is a reference to the Kyoto Animation fire that happened 2 years ago. In fact, this was published either on the day of the anniversary or the day after. I'm not really too sure. Someone in the comments can correct me. And the other reason why I say it's a reference to KyoAni is because eventually we do get the perpetrator's motivation on the attack, and there was really no reason to add this unless you're trying to make a point that you're trying to directly reference that it is, yes, this is supposed to be the guy that committed arson. It's the same motivation. Your art was plagiarized and all that stuff. So yes, we go through various stages of grief, all without dialogue, by the way, which is mwah, chef's kiss, no need for dialogue. Sense of memories and nostalgia broken because, you know, our friend's dead. Part of Fujimoto has died. We get a lot of sadness, grieving, reflections. She blames herself, even though it really isn't your fault. But, you know, most people, sometimes when you lose somebody, we tend to blame ourselves, even if it was outside of control. Like, it was our fault for treating her like this. It was all fault for getting her into this. It was all fault for telling her not to come home, something like that. Then we start Act 3, which is, whoa, now we're here. You would think there's like a time loop happening. There's like time fuckery. And that's the brilliant thing about Fujimoto's mangas. His stories are very random, but it's not for a bad thing. It's a bit unpredictable. Then we get a perspective from Kyomoto, but they never meet. So we go through her life. She does the exact same thing. She eventually goes to art school. We find her confronting the killer. There we learn about the motivation of the killer. Now, I say that it could be controversial because like sometimes referencing tragic events is just random, may or may not be good storytelling. The movie called Remember Me was very controversial because it was pretty much a generic romance, but the twist was that Robert Pattinson's character was on the towers of 9/11 and he died, and so they used a national tragedy in order to move the story along. And it was very in bad taste. And I don't know if this is exactly the same thing. It's not a direct reference, but through context clues and the fact that it was published the day of the anniversary, and you can say Kyomoto equals KyoAni, if you really want to go there. Also, motivations are the same. Massacre. You could say it's bad taste. You could say there's no reason for it. They could have done something else. But then dang, she gets saved by Fujino. And it was awesome. They're like doing like a time travel thing where she saves her at the end. And then they meet up again and they're like all happy. And then like, we're gonna be awesome. We're gonna have a manga together. We're gonna be cool. And then nope, it's not real. It's too good to be true. The way you can take this is that this was probably Fujino trying to imagine an alternate reality where our loved ones are still alive. And I'm sure some people go through that. It's very heartbreaking to see this, especially since we went through this high of like happiness to come out of it and realize that that should actually happen. You can't escape. There's no escapism here. Oh, that's actually really cute. Look Back by Kyomoto. Maybe she's surprised because maybe this is like Kyomoto writing from beyond the grave. Maybe it's not, I don't know. Point is that the reality is that she's dead. And then we get this nice closing statement where she questions why she's even drawing manga. Because in the beginning, remember, she says that she didn't actually like to draw manga. She just did it, I guess, for the attention, maybe. And then we go to here where she's like, she lists through all the critiques. And I think they're fair critiques. I think most mangakas probably believe that. But then Fujimoto asks this question to Fujino. Why do you draw? And the next page is so poignant and beautiful. The next page is literally just the young Kyomoto reading, and she's smiling. She's happy. She loves it. And I think this is like Fujimoto, you know, referencing his fans. That he loves it when his fans love his work, that can appreciate it, that can be compassionate over his stories. And it's all happy. And then we go through like a catharsis of Fujino's nostalgia, all the good times in like huge panels, huge two spreads. This is a very great panel. It's just two girls having fun, working on their manga, and then back to reality. That was the past. That's your nostalgia. And I think this is like Fujimoto trying to reflect on past trauma, past tragedies. Is that trauma is like, you know, it's an item that you just put away on your shelf. You can never get rid of it. It'll always be there. But you can compartmentalize it with your metaphysical brain in a drawer. Put it away. But eventually it'll have to come back out. And you don't want to put it away for so long that it surprises you. You want to like look back and be like, yeah, this is sad. I miss you. But I can't keep looking back. I need to move forward. And moving forward means I have to go back to work. Which is kind of a very, I don't know if it's cynical. It's kind of like depressing. But, you know, we go through all this fun time in terms of survivor's guilt and all that. We go through like grief. We envision alternate scenarios where we could have saved the ones that we loved, but that's not true. We try to rationalize that maybe they're still out there in a new world, but you know, that's not true. Then we look back at our past, the nostalgia we had for this person, all the good times that are now gone, and now we have to just go back to work and move on. Our future is uncertain. It's just blank. Yep, it's just blank after that. We don't know what happens afterwards. We don't know if she continues to find more success. We don't know if she fails because of her grief. We don't know. I think one of the things why this one shot was created was so Fujimoto can internalize his emotions of how he feels drawing manga into a one shot. Because if you really think about it, there's been a lot of things that have happened in the manga world, in the anime world, in terms of like tragic events. I mean, 2 years ago, there was the fire. This year, we had the death of Kentaro Miura, probably one of the most famous mangakas. And then to parallel the tragedy, we also have the success of Chainsaw Man. And I think this is just Fujimoto just unsure of how to make of it. He doesn't know if he should feel bad. But I think the one thing is that it's okay to look back on those good times, but it's also very important that we look forward into the future, to do what we can and to try to, you know, maybe make some more good times, or maybe to experience more tragedy. The thing is, we'll never know. And yeah, that was basically what I think about Look Back. I was excited reading this, and I think this was really well done. In terms of like this one shot, this was really well done. I felt like I watched a movie, and I think that was the goal. I mean, the only thing I would have to say that I don't think I particularly liked was the implementation of the tragedy. Oh, also here, the Chainsaw Man door. Reference. Yeah, the only thing I probably wouldn't was kind of weird about was the fact that the tragedy was basically a reference to KyoAni. But maybe that's just Fujimoto's way of trying to honor those people that have lost. Or it could be another instance of him being really edgy, because he does like to be edgy in his works. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Please subscribe if you like me. And leave a comment on what you thought about Look Back, or any other Fujimoto mangas that you may have read. Like to read about it. So anyway, I hope you have a good day, okay? Bye.
Time had washed away all my memories, leaving me with an emptiness inside. 100円ください。